Nvidia stock is down roughly 31% year to date as this company has been hit with various bearish sentiments. The first is obviously there being an AI bubble, and obviously more importantly, more recently, kind of the discussions of tariffs and how it can impact the overall tech industry. Now, in today's episode, maybe I want to do a little bit different, maybe not kind of do a lot of fear mongering, but instead kind of take a closer look at why I believe Nvidia is probably one of the most bullish companies to be in as a long-term investor. And on today's episode, what I'm going to do is we're going to take a closer look at some recent financial numbers. We're also going to take a closer look at what recent CEOs said in the past week, not CEOs from Nvidia, but from other companies that have mentioned the strength of the AI market. And then also just take a closer look at some of these strengths that Nvidia has. Now, I know, right? I mean, short term, things look horrible. We can see the stock is down roughly 32% year to date. In the past 5 days, the stock is down roughly 10%. But I think most investors are long term investors. And while right now it sucks, the long term mentality, the long term opportunity is still intact. I mean, we can see in the past 5 years, the stock is still up over 1,400%. Yes, that is insane in just the past 5 years. And I do believe in the future, it's not going to be a straight up ride, but I will be gladly to be a buyer at these levels of $94. So let's take a closer look in today's episode.
I want to thank The Motley Fool for sponsoring this video, and check out fool.com/Jose for the 10 best stocks to buy now. With that link, you get a promotional offer for the subscription service. Now, let's continue with today's episode.
All right. So the first thing I actually just want to jump into is look at PE ratios. Everybody always used to say, hey, look, Jose, Nvidia is a crazy expensive company. Even on current PE ratios, this is a company trading at 32 at the moment. 32. That is the trailing 12 months. Now, if we look at forward, which is the end of this fiscal year, forward is actually 20.8. It is in the low 20s, about to hit the teens. And maybe if we see some more red drop on stocks, we can even get the high teens here in PE ratio forward. And right now, the way the market is after hours, the stock is down about 1.8%. And let me say, I don't think the market has bottomed. I don't. I mean, I think volatility is always high, especially with the current sentiments and kind of discussions that are going on right now. Is going to be high for a while. I also know that I'm not the world's greatest timer. Many people are going to be like, Jose, why are you willing to buy companies right now when things are looking bad? Like I said, I'm not the world's greatest market timer, but luckily, even with not being the worst timer, as long as I know I have time in my side, buying in the downturn, buying in the upturn has been a very big winning opportunity for me. And I'm going to stay with that. I'm going to stay with what works for me. So I would never throw all my money at once, but I would easily put money as quickly as possible and try to increase my incremental investments on a weekly basis and so on and so forth. In the past few days, I've actually been a big net buyer, but I still have plenty of cash available to be able to throw in more and more. As like I said, I don't believe the bottom is in just yet, but I'm not trying to time the bottom either. Now, forward PE, like we were talking about, 20.8, this is very much dependent on analyst expectations. So maybe we do start to see some revisions in the upcoming few days and few weeks as we learn more about the tariffs. But my gut feeling tells me that Nvidia is still going to grow in forms of revenue, in forms of earnings per share. And that is, well, it might not be 20.8 in what might actually happen. I still believe it's going to be under the 32 that we're at right now. And that to me is insanely amazing companies sitting at very attractive valuations. Some other thing I wanted to kind of showcase is just this company's cash and short-term investments of $43 billion, total long-term debt of 8.4, stock buyback in the past 12 months of $33 billion, and free cash flow of $60 billion in the trailing 12 months. My best guess right now, what's going to happen is Nvidia is going to take the opportunity of these stocks being pretty cheap and really kind of increase that buyback on the stock, as that's probably going to be one of the easiest way to make sure they maintain some amazing earnings per share growth. And I think that's going to be an amazing opportunity with the amount of cash that they have, with the amount of free cash flow that they're generating. Buybacks is probably something this company is going to be doing like no tomorrow. Now, what I want to do next is at the intro of this episode, I talked about how there have been some recent CEO discussions. And on Friday at CNBC, Microsoft's co founder, Bill Gates, former Microsoft CEO, Steve Ballmer, and current Microsoft CEO, Nadella, speak with CNBC about the AI market and about Microsoft, as Microsoft just celebrated their 50th year. And pretty much a great interview. It's about a 20-minute interview. Check it out. I'm going to share some of the highlights here, but overall, they talk about the AI market. And too long, don't watch this segment. It's pretty much just bullish for the future of AI. And to me, as we're going to look at this, one thing that this tells me is if AI is as big as every kind of big CEO is making it seem it is, even during any form of maybe economic pressure, these are companies that are going to continue to invest heavily in AI. And there is, in my opinion, one crucial reason for this. If any of these players slow down in the investments of AI, this is going to be one of their biggest reasons of losing market share in their cloud business, in their software business by huge margins. And most of these companies are willing to take the hiccup in the short term of things to make sure they are a leaders in the long term of things. I think most CEOs are looking at that long term mentality, and we'll see that because AI, if it is, it's revolutionary. Not as I'm saying, right? I do believe AI is revolutionary, but as these CEOs are saying it, it is going to be crucial that no one stops the break on AI investment. And the reason I say that, and it's very important for Nvidia, is because we see Nvidia's their biggest revenue segment is the data center market, and many might be wondering how may tariffs impact this. Later throughout this episode, I actually even want to talk about some of the tariffs numbers as well. But kind of let's pull back to this kind of CNBC interview and some of the things. So first, pretty much he mentions that in the short term, because of all these changes, we are going to readjust. But overall, what is crucial is the investments of AI. Like nobody's going to get up in the world, and this is Nadella again, and say, hey, look, I need less intelligence. But pretty much they're waking up and say, I need more of it and I need it daily. So we will see how that shakes out. The second thing is 50 years from now or 25 years from now, what is the one thing you can guarantee is the world needs more compute. So I want to keep those two thoughts and then take one step at a time. And then whatever are the geopolitical or economic shifts, we will adjust to it. So pretty much Nadella, like I mentioned, says AI is what's going to be the future. We have to make sure we continue to invest. And these short-term headwinds and hiccups with geopolitical and economic shifts, that's something that a business can adjust to. Now, Bill Gates, very similar in that overall interview at CNBC, mentions that I say the biggest trend in the world today, even beyond the complex geopolitics, is the arrival of artificial intelligence. You know, it's weird to think a company that's 50 years old and the most profound decade will probably be the next one because of the growth of artificial intelligence. And then there was a question, kind of maybe an oversupply of overcapacity. And Nadella pretty much mentions, will we be perfectly matched every second? No. So is this something that we are committed to building out data centers across 60 regions? They are absolutely going to. We will make adjustments as they get new signals or even new efficiencies. So overall, first is they are going to continue to invest in AI. Sometimes they might shift in forms of signals. They might build more, they might build less, depending on the signals. But overall, they are still very bullish in the AI market. And Ballmer, which is the previous CEO, which I didn't know is the largest investor of the company, mentions that right now he talks about the short-term and long-term mentality. If you want to own the stock 6 months, a year, 2 years from now, he doesn't really know what to do. But in the long term of things, the only kind of feedback he provides to the current CEO is don't underinvest because it's just money. Serving your customers. And he kind of talks about serving your customers, you will be able to solve that problem even if you have a short-term hiccup. So even in the short term, if you have some form of hiccups in the financial world, the most important thing is serving your customers, where you build 6 extra data centers as an investor, as the largest investor of Microsoft, he won't care. I won't, because I think it's more important to do that than to get caught short and not serve your customers at all, because that is more crucial and more hurtful than over investing in AI. And then Bill Gates goes on to say that, hey, look, right now, these models still are very energy intensive, and as the price of intelligence and efficiency goes down, the demand elasticity for intelligence is pretty unbelievable, whether that's medical or new sciences or new drugs. So overall, the top three kind of main players of Microsoft have mentioned that AI is the future, right? That's pretty much the focus of Microsoft. They're going to continue to invest, and this is not, in my opinion, the mentality of Microsoft. If I would guess, if we have similar interviews with other CEOs of big tech players, this is going to be the same mentality for all those players, for Amazon, for Google, for Meta platforms. And to me, that continues to showcase the resilience of NVIDIA's corporation and their data center revenue. Now, one final thing I wanted to mention is during this interview, the interviewer asked Nadella, hey, look, what is the next thing? What is the next major development that you are looking at? And I'm guessing he was maybe looking for an answer like quantum computing. But Nadella mentioned the following. He's like, and here's an interesting thing. And in fact, we were all talking about it. At a time like this, when you have found that thing, I don't want to go looking around for other things. That thing that is going to power everything is intelligence and the compute required for intelligence. I want to make sure we do a damn good job of building out that infrastructure. So this pretty much tells us that AI is that thing. There isn't anything else on the CEO's radar right now. So again, like I mentioned, I think this is overall bullish for the sentiment of Nvidia. Now, some other things about Nvidia. Nvidia recently had a benchmark for their inferencing solution on April 2nd, and the Nvidia's new Blackwell platform, the GB200, showed insane performance. They call it the speed demon of inferencing. There's no one that comes close. There's no one that's able to do all the workloads like Nvidia. So Nvidia pretty much has no competition in the inferencing space, which is very, very crucial right now. Nvidia also has a crazy, crazy roadmap, and in my opinion, that is going to allow them to continue to benefit. So, I mean, we keep hearing all these great news, right? I mean, all these great things, and this is for why I believe I'm giving the bullish case. Obviously, there might be the bearish case that you might have, but to me, this is a great bullish case for me to be able to say, hey, look, yes, Nvidia is definitely sitting at some great levels. Now, Jensen, during GTC of 2025, so March 19th, was actually talking about both a recession and tariffs. It's like he knew what could be happening in the future. And right now, one of the big things is tariffs are expecting to create some negative pressure on consumer goods. And that negative pressure could create something like a recession for companies and for countries like the United States. So Jensen mentioned if there is a recession, I think that companies that are working on AI is going to shift more and more investments towards AI because it's the fastest growing. And so we will see every CEO will know to do to shift toward what is growing. So overall, in forms of any recessions, focus on the growing markets, and that growing market is pretty much AI, pretty much mirroring what Microsoft's CEO said just a few days ago, just on Friday. He also mentions on tariffs, they are preparing and have been preparing to manufacture onshore. And TSMC's investments of 100,000, 100 million, 100 billion fabs here in Arizona, the fab that they already have, where they're in it, and they are now running production in Arizona. And so they will manufacture onshore. The rest of the systems will manufacture as much as possible onshore as well. And so I think the ability to manufacture onshore is not a concern of his. And their partners, some of those partners, NVIDIA is the largest customers for them, and they're excellent partners of them. And they think that they have realized that the ability to have onshore manufacturing and a very agile supply chain will be critical. So tariffs, in his opinion, will have very little impact in the short term of things, and long term, they're going to have manufacturing onshore. So we can see here how NVIDIA CEO is not too worried about tariffs at the moment. But overall, I don't see any signs, in my opinion, of an AI bubble. I still see, even with the current headwinds, CEOs discussing that they want to continue to invest in AI. I continue to see why there's multiple tailwinds available there for NVIDIA to continue to grow and for it to be sitting at a current PE ratio of 32, I think this is pretty cheap.